Hello, mathletes. Welcome to this week's homework review, where we are talking about least common multiples and greatest common factors. So building on the skills that we worked on last week. Now, remember when we're talking about multiples, I gave you the reminder that multiples are many, meaning that if I asked you to start counting by 6 and I came back an hour later, you should still be counting by 6. There is no end, right? Multiples are also known as skip counting. So for this first page, we're looking for the least common multiple, which means if I skip count by 15 and I skip count by 6, what is the first number that they have in common? Now, if we keep skip counting, they're going to have more than one number in common. It might take us a significant amount of time to find it, but it would exist. So let's start. I suggested in class doing like the first 5 multiples to get an idea. I tried not to give you anything way too big because we're practicing the skill, not trying to stretch ourselves too much. So if I start with 15, I have 15, 30, 45, 60. I'm going to stop there because I ran out of room and I know that 6 is kind of small. I have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. At this point, I can stop. I found the first match. They have their least common multiple is 30. When we have one smaller number and one bigger number, what I suggest is starting with your smaller number first, and I'm going to show you why. 5, 10, 15, 20. That's what I'm looking for. Usually it's going to take me more of my smaller number than my bigger number. So if I start there, I'm usually going to be able to figure out what my multiple is pretty easily. Least common multiple, smallest number they have in common when skip counting is 20. Starting with 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 is what I'm looking for. Least common multiple is 18. 2, 4. 4 is what I'm looking for. Least common multiple is 4. 6, 12. 12 is what I'm looking for. Least common multiple is 12. 3, 6, 9, 12. 4, 8, 12. 12 is the least common multiple. 4, 3, and 4. That brings us to the end of page number 1. If you have any questions, please bring them with you to class. Page number 2, we continue to work on least common multiples. Remember, when we're talking about multiples, multiples are many. It is skip counting. They go on forever. I have suggested that you start with your smaller number to try and find the first multiple that you can. So if we start with our 3, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Let's see if that gets us far enough. 8, 16, 24, 32. I know that 24 is also a multiple of 3 because 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to stop at 24. That is my least common multiple. When I see a pair like 3 and 30, my brain says 10 because these numbers are the same. One has a 0 at the end. So 3 times 10 gives me 30, which means my least common multiple is going to be 30. The next two are a little bit trickier because we have to get a little bit bigger, okay? So if I'm doing my 4s and I want to skip count by 4, I want to get as big as I can, see how far I can go before I notice a common one that I know 50 would go into, or I'm sorry, 15 would go into, or until I have exhausted what I know. So if I start by 4s, I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. I'm going to stop there because I ran out of room. If I'm thinking of 15, I have 15, 30, 45, 60. And when I do this, I notice something. And I notice that 60 is a factor of 4 because 4 times 15 is 60. Now for you, you might have had to keep writing out your 4s. And if that's the case, that's absolutely fine. But I know that 4 times 15 is 60. So I'm going to put their least common multiple of 60. Remember, the cool thing about math is that all of our brains work differently and we have different strategies that we can use. So I'm going to start with my 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Now, something that I'm noticing is that 12 ends in a 2, and none of the numbers that I have are ending in a 2. So I'm thinking it through. I have zeros and fives. I know that my multiple is going to have to be a 0, right? Because I'm never going to be able to group my 2's and get a 5 because we have lots and lots of even numbers here. So I start to think, okay, if I count by 12, when am I going to hit something that ends in a 0? So I have 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. That is going to be my least common multiple. It ends in a 0, which means it's even, which means that 12 can be a factor. All right, love bugs, really good work. 10 and 12. This one was another tricky, but use what you know. We did 12 up here. We saw the first one that ended in a 0 is 60. If I skip count by 10 6 times, I'm also going to get a 60. Don't double your work. Least common multiple is 60. 5 and 15 ending on an easy one. 5, 10, 15. 15 is what we want. Least common multiple is 15. All right, so faces, any questions, please bring them with you to class. We are now in the land of factors. Remember that factors are few. We multiply to get our answer. That's what that little X is, a reminder that we multiply to get our answers. Remember with factors, factors are few. I can tell you exactly how many factors there are for a number. So that means that you need to really think it through and ask yourself, what are the factors? We're looking for the greatest number they have in common. So for 12, I know 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. For 10, I have 1 times 10, 2 times 5. The greatest common factor that they have. Let's look. I have a 1 that they both have. I have a 2, a 5, no, a 10, no. Greatest common factor for these is going to be 2. Remember, sometimes, and I didn't give you these tricky ones, but sometimes your greatest common factor is 1. That is a possible answer. Sometimes your greatest common factor is 1. All right, let's look at the factors of 18 and 30. Remember with these, we're thinking, what are all of the factors I know? I'm looking for the biggest one that they have in common. It's really important that we list all of the factors if possible. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. If I'm thinking of the factors of 30, I have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6. Looking for what we have in common. We both have a 1, we both have a 2, a 3, a 6. That's our last one. So for this one, the greatest common factor is going to be 6. For 5 and 15, 5 is a prime number, so the only factors I have are 1 times 5. 15 is 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. Looking to see what they have in common. They both share a 1 and a 5. Greatest common factor is 5. Factoring out 8 and 2, 2 is prime, so it only has the factors of 1 in itself. 8 is 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. They both share a 1 and a 2. Greatest common factor is 2. 3 and 15. We have 1 times 3. 3 is prime. 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. They share a 1 and a 3. That means our greatest common factor, the bigger number they both share, is 3. 12 and 15, we have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. We also have 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. Let's look and see what they share. They both have a 1. They both have a 3. Greatest common factor is 3. Any questions on these mathletes, please bring them with you to class. Last page of greatest common factors. Remember, factors are few, and we're looking for the greatest number they have in common. In order to find that, we need to write out what the factors are and look to see what the matches are and which one is the largest. For 6, we have 1 times 6, 2 times 3, 1 times 15, 3 times 5. Looking what they have in common, we have, oh, I did it again. We have a 1, a 3. Greatest common factor is 3. Factors of 18 are, switch my pens, 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. For 24, we have 1 times 24. We have 2 times 12. We have 4 times 6. Looking to see what they share. We share a 1, a 2, a 6, and that is it. Greatest common factor is 6. Looking at 10 and 30. 10 is 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. 30 is 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. They match on the 1, the 2, the 5, and the 10. Greatest common factor for this set is 10. 6 and 18. 6 is 1 times 6, 2 times 3. 18 is 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. They share a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 6. Lots of common factors, but our greatest common factor is 6. All right, we have 2 and 18. Don't do the work twice. We just factored 18 right here. Greatest common factor is 2. For 24, we factored that up here. We had 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 4 and 6. For 30, we factored it here, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Biggest in common. We share a 1, a 2, no 4, we share a 6. Greatest common factor is going to be 6. Any questions, mathletes? Please bring them with you to class. Otherwise, I will see you next week.